Well, the Super Bowl's done.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball's about to start.
Oh, yeah.
And in a ridiculous act of futility, Millard Thomas and I are going to pick division winners way too early. Why? Because that's what we're doing. It's a Valentine's Day edition of Locked On MLB and Locked On Diamondbacks. Let's cross over, baby. Happy Valentine's Day. Hug the one you love. And welcome to Locked On MLB and the Locked On MLB Locked On Diamondbacks crossover for February 14th, 2023. This is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball all year long. You don't believe me? We were doing one on Super Bowl Sunday. That's right. We dropped one during the Super Bowl. For those of you who are listening, I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. You don't believe me? Look at my lower third. It says Sully. Why would I lie? I am an Emmy-nominated television producer who is about to begin his fifth season covering baseball for the Locked On Podcast Network. I was previously the host of the Sully Baseball podcast. I've produced a bunch of TV shows, directed a movie, directed some short films, been a stand-up comedian. I teach kids. I make the world a better place. And I sell Built Bars. But once a week, or in this week, twice a week, I have this guy come and join me. Why don't you tell people who you are?
Yeah, I don't think I have the resume of a Sully Baseball like that, but I'm Millard Thomas, host of Locked On Diamondbacks. You can catch me on all your podcasting streaming platforms, that is, and you can also catch me on YouTube, stumbling on my words a little bit today because it was a great weekend with the Super Bowl and Waste Management, so we're still recovering a little bit over here at Sully Baseball, but please hit subscribe to the Locked On Diamondbacks YouTube channel. Please go follow us on all your streaming platforms. Please follow my personal Twitter account at CreatorThomas24. Follow the show account at Locked On Diamondbacks. And Sully, I got to ask you before we start, is it too early to do predictions? The Super Bowl's over. Pitchers and catchers report this week. Is it?
That's how late this stupid Super Bowl thing goes on. You know, this is what happens when you have the Super Bowl being played in the middle of February. This is kind of like baseball creeping into November. And next thing you know, we'll be carving Thanksgiving turkey saying, who's pitching tonight? Well, the same thing going on. 2 days before freaking Valentine's Day?
I know.
We're in mid-freaking February?
You got to kind of love it.
Well, look I'm not a football guy. I'm not. But I mean, look I watched the game. By the way, I will say this is not a football podcast. For a Super Bowl that was decided in the final minute of the game, can I have nobody complain about pace of play at the end of a baseball game than the absolute dud of the last minute of that game where they're like, well, they're going to try to let them score, but now they're going to stand here and let the clock run, and now we're going to stand around, and now we're going to stand around. Like going, all right, folks, I better not hear anything about how baseball is boring to watch at the final moments. Look, I'm not trashing football, but when I hear something said like, well, it might be a good strategy to have them score a touchdown now, and therefore they'd get the ball. I mean, I'm sorry, what? I mean, it just seemed like the last minute, which should have been, hey, look at that. It's the last minute of the game. A Super Bowl is being decided, turned into like a lot of like, and we're going to wait till the clock goes. Okay, look at.
Well, you could blame the refs for that, Sully, for that holding call, because then we would have got a crazy ending with the Eagles trying to kick a field goal or score a touchdown to end it. So blame the refs for that, Sully.
We will never have an ending of a Super Bowl like that year was between the Rams and the Titans, and the dude was tackled at the 1 yard line. That's still, I think, the greatest ending of a sporting event I've seen, where everyone was going, wait, what just happened? What just happened? That's all I want is people to scream, what just happened? But hey, I'll tell you what happened is we are seeing a convergence pretty soon of the end of the Super Bowl, pitchers and catchers reporting. I got to catch up on my Oscar viewing. And I'm an Oscar addict as big as a baseball addict. And then you're going to have the NCAA basketball tournament, and the NBA is right around the corner. But guess what? It may be way too early to make predictions, but so what? It actually is a nice benchmark because pitchers and catchers are reporting. Spring training is about to begin. So we can say, okay, we can make our predictions now. Then you make your official picks at the beginning of the season, and you can kind of see where baseball could be a little fluid in the spring training. We go like, okay, going into spring training, here's who we think are the best teams. Then we may get out of spring training with a slightly different point of view. So no, it is the exact right time for making this preliminary sense of predictions, and these will be set in stone. What do you got?
Yes, and then before we even get started today, I just want to ask you a quick question. Don't want to go on a whole tangent. Just a quick yes or no, because you just brought up the Oscar thing. Have you seen Everything Everywhere All at Once? Sully?
Yes, it's outstanding.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. I love it. Maybe my favorite movie of the year. That's all I want to say about the Oscars.
Yeah, it's really great. It's really great. There were some good films. I'm not, by the way, this is maybe sacrilege. I was not a huge fan of the first Top Gun. I thought the first Top Gun was just like, whatever. It never did anything. And I was the perfect age. I was 14 years old when it came out. And I kind of shrugged. And I saw this one, and was it well made? Yeah. Was the scene with Val Kilmer in it really cool? Yeah. Great. And I walked away going, okay, that happened. Yeah. But I will say, congratulations to my college friend. And so I took many courses with in college, and was a buddy of mine there. Aaron Kruger received an Oscar nomination for co-writing Top Gun Maverick. So for that reason, I hope it wins Best Screenplay for my friend Aaron Kruger, who's an Oscar nominee. So
Sully's a celebrity. He just knows everything.
I'm not a celebrity. I just know some people, but there you go. I got that. And The Triangle of Sadness, very strange movie that I loved, with a great cameo by Woody Harrelson. I thought it was outstanding. Very obscure film. Got an Oscar nomination for Best Picture. I said, really? And I saw it and said, oh, yeah, really? Cool. Great. I thought it was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And what was the other one I saw that I really liked? I'll think about it soon enough. But yeah. The Banshees of Inisherin with Colin Farrell. Real. Okay. I mean, it's for Irish people. It was like Irish porn, basically. It's just beautiful shots, not literally, but beautiful shots of Ireland and everything. And it was just gorgeous and witty and fun. And sometimes sad, sometimes heartwarming, but the two leads are one. Brendan Gleeson's obviously a great actor, and Colin Farrell, who has developed into a very fine actor. Thought it was great. Thought it was terrific.
Yeah. You almost sold me there for a second with that first term. I was like, oh, that sounds like an interesting little pot of gold in there.
That's a different. But if I were to say what's the best film of the year, I would say Everything All at Once
perfect.
Is my favorite film this year. I still have to see All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar. I haven't seen yet, and the film Tar. Any film with the word tar in it, Tar and Avatar, I need to see both of them. And I haven't seen the Spielberg film yet, The Fabelmans. So I got four left to see. A few weeks to catch up. So
and see Avatar in 3D, IMAX preferably.
Yeah. But by the way, again, sacrilege. I thought the first Avatar was, again, well made, but a bit of a shrug. It was just sort of like, yeah, okay, that happened. Great.
You don't like the storyline of getting unobtainium? That's what they were after, unobtainium.
I know. That same year, a film called District 9 came out, which was another sci-fi film, which was 1,000 times better than Avatar. And this
that
year,
one rated pretty highly, I think. District
9. If there was a big budget, film that I would have rather seen be a nominee, would have probably been Wakanda Forever, which I liked better than. I mean, I wasn't crazy
You're
about
in February too, Sully. That's what we love.
Oh yes, exactly. I'm glad. I hope Angela Bassett gets something, because should have won for playing Tina Turner a bunch of years ago. So get her. But this is not Locked On Oscars, which I probably could do. I probably could do Locked On Oscars. Oh, please have Ke Huy Quan win an Oscar. I want to see Short Round, because Spielberg's going to win too for directing. So you may have a Spielberg, Ke Huy Quan, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom reunion.
I need to pitch it to Mr. Locke, a little Locked On Oscars.
Okay. I hope Harrison Ford hands out the Best Supporting Actor, just so we can see Harrison Ford give Ke Huy Quan the Oscar. That would be cool. All right, let's get back to baseball. Sorry, I'm short. He was short round into Temple of Doom. I'm sorry. What do you want from me?
Indiana Jones, unfortunately. So
what do you want? Oh, God, I'm so old. Okay, let's what are we doing today?
Hey,
You didn't tell me whether we're doing American League or National League, and I told you to not tell me. So come on. What
Okay, I thought you were surprising me, but let's start with the American League, Sully, and let's save the best for last with the National League. On today's podcast, we're going to go through every division. Sully's going to try and predict the division order based on the FanDuel odds, and then we're just going to discuss the team that we think is going to win the division, the team that we think might be the biggest letdown of the division. Today is our big division predictions podcast.
Now, let me ask you a question, though, before we get too deep into this. Are you telling me that these are the FanDuel predictions?
Yeah, these are basically odds for each team to win the division, and the team with the worst odds is the favorite.
Well, it's about time to put that little banner down there and just let you know that we're at the midway point of the NBA season, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back. Say that 3 times fast. If your first bet doesn't win, just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe and secure and super easy to use. Then you can bet everything from the money line to point scores to threes drained. Plus, FanDuel lets you even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with same-game parlay. So don't miss your chance to get your no-sweat first bet and up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn and earn and spurn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association. This is a Locked On MLB, Locked On Diamondbacks crossover as I looked panicked, realizing that we're supposed to do our first ad break before the 15-minute mark, and I saw us just yammering for another 40 minutes. I said, let's do that first ad break, shall we? Nope, let's not pull back the curtain anymore and show you how the sausage is made. Let's make some sausage in that American League East. Here's what I think FanDuel, let me tell you what I think. These are not necessarily my picks. This is how I think FanDuel will pick them. I think the Boston Red Sox are in the cellar with the boiler and the hot water tank and a bunch of old stuff like the Christmas decorations. They're in the basement. I think the Baltimore Orioles are in 4th place. They won over their fans again with a unlikely winning season, and they rewarded their fans by doing nothing. I think 3rd place is the Tampa Bay Rays, who, despite everybody being in a full body cast at the end of the year, still managed to make the postseason, which is interesting when you think about it. They went from 100, they went from winning the pennant to 100 wins to being decimated with injuries, but still winning in the high 80s, which is why I think the Rays are going to be a dangerous team going into 2023. Underestimate the Rays at your own peril. I'm thinking FanDuel has them at number 3. I bet they have Toronto at number 2, and I bet they have the return of Aaron Judge and Carlos Rodon making his Bronx debut, having the Yankees defending their American League East title. This is, by the way, I cannot stress it enough. These are what I think FanDuel will pick. I actually would not agree with that order, but I think that's how FanDuel has them.
Sully, you are like a mind reader of Vegas because Sully was spot on with these FanDuel predictions. Let me run through them real quick. At plus 100, the favorite to win.
5.
Yeah, at plus 100, the favorite to win the division was the New York Yankees at plus 220, the Toronto Blue Jays at 2nd, Tampa Bay Rays at 3rd at plus 350. And if you want some long odds, the Orioles and Red Sox are tied for the worst odds at plus 2,000. So you're spot on, Sully Baseball. But it seems like you agree with FanDuel. Of any of those teams in the division, do you think any of them will be a letdown this season?
Yes, I think Baltimore is going to be a letdown.
Okay.
I think Baltimore, well, let me tell you where I think. I think Baltimore had a winning season this last year, and I think they're going to regress. I actually think the Orioles may finish in 5th. I think the Red Sox, and I don't think, and it's not because I think the Red Sox are good. The Orioles had a good second half of the season and did nothing to build upon it. The Red Sox have done nothing, and they're a mess. I think they're both, but I think there's a real good chance that they're both going to have losing records. I also think I think first place is going to be an absolute scrum because I think the Rays are healthier and going to be a lot better than people think they are. And I actually am not picking the Yankees to win the division. I am picking Toronto. Toronto had a thoroughly mediocre first half of the season last year, and yet still made the playoffs. And still had home field advantage in the wild card series. And they made a bunch of very risky moves. And we had Ruth Capulis on here who was very pessimistic, especially seeing Teoscar Hernandez go away. But they brought in good, solid pitching from the trade with Seattle and Bassett. They brought in Kiermaier and other people to fill in the holes in the outfield. And they have a bunch of players who had disappointing seasons last year that if they play up to where I think they can play, I think Toronto will improve on a team that was already a winning playoff team. I think the Yankees won 99 games with everything going right the first half of the season. Now, they had the lousy month and a half after the All-Star break, and then basically righted the ship. It became a very good team down the stretch, and one that got to the ALCS and got their lunch handed to them. I think the Yankees are closer to that team in September than they were in the first half of the season. I don't think they're as bad as the team that they were after the All-Star break. I think that was a little bit of a market correction. But I think both the Blue Jays and the Yankees are going to win between 93 and 96 games. They're both very good teams. Now, the Yankees could indeed win it, but I think that a game or two are going to separate those two. I'm going to say the Jays are going to win 95 games, the Yankees are going to win 93 games, and the Rays are going to win 90 games, and the Red Sox and Orioles are going to be sub 500.
I love everything you just said there, Sully Baseball. Not much to disagree with. Maybe the only thing, if I had to disagree with something, the Red Sox and Orioles. I think I like the Red Sox a little bit more than the Orioles. I think there's a little bit more talent on Boston.
I agree.
You think, I guess we didn't disagree there. But with the Orioles, I
just don't think they're very good. I just don't think I think there's more talent than Baltimore, but I think Baltimore had a good second half. I think the Red Sox had a bad second half. Because remember, they were a playoff team until around the All-Star break.
Yeah.
They just had a disastrous second half. But anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think they're both like 78 win teams.
Yeah, they're probably both 78 win teams. I guess maybe the biggest disagreement I have, let me actually get to the part where I disagree with you. So, because not on the Red Sox or Orioles, it's really on the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays, I think, will have another good season. They will probably be in the mix for the postseason, but I just don't buy in the Rays as a true World Series contender. Will they potentially make the playoffs? Yes, they're always a good regular season team. I just don't love the ceiling of the Tampa Bay Rays. I think they're more of a high floor, low ceiling team. That's how they get all those wins, because they're just a machine in the regular season. They have a great approach when it comes to analytics, but I think the analytics runs dry when you get to the postseason. So I'm probably going chalk with how FanDuel has it set up. Tampa Bay is still probably third. They're still probably going to be in the mix for the playoffs, but I just don't love that team necessarily. I agree with you. Baltimore will probably be a letdown just because I didn't have any expectations for them entering this season. I didn't have expectations for them entering last season. So for me, it's not even a letdown. It's just what I think they're going to be is not a very good team, the AL East next year. I think the Red Sox have more talent maybe on paper than what we might remember, but I think just there's so much bad juju surrounding that team. I think that's why they'll suck this year. Like you said, I think it will come down to Toronto versus the Yankees, and I'm taking the New York Yankees over the Blue Jays. Look, I love some of the Blue Jays moves. I don't love trading away Teoscar Hernandez, but he got Dalton Varsho this season. I absolutely love this signing of Chris Bassett. They've made some good moves this season, but to me, I think Carlos Rodon was one of the biggest moves, if not the biggest move this free agency period, because we've been waiting for the Yankees to maybe spend some more money on a position player or just spend some more money outside the Garrett Coles on their next big time guy that's not homegrown like an Aaron Judge. And they went out there, they gave Carlos Rodon the bag, and now you have a 3-man combination of Garrett Cole, Rodon, and then Nestor Cortez with all those home run smashers in your lineup. I just trust the infrastructure, I think, a little bit more than the Yankees, just because they seem to be a little bit more replicable year to year. I think there's a little bit more variance with Toronto where, then maybe they could win 100, 105 games, but I also wouldn't be as surprised if they were maybe on the lower side of 90 wins. I just think the Yankees are a little bit of a safer bet than them, and I love that Rodon move. Nestor Cortez, I wish he was in the WBC. He just got replaced by Kyle Freeland. I mean, talk about a downgrade from Nestor Cortez to Kyle Freeland. But I'm loving the New York Yankees in this division. I'm probably picking them, but I'm going chalk with how FanDuel had it.
All right. I mean, let me just address a couple things there. First of all, I mean, I think the Yankees could certainly win the division. And I think the Rodons, I had Stacey Gotsulias on last week, and I was talking about the thing that I like about the Rodon move was it made sure they're always throwing a major leaguer. and it takes a lot of the pressure off of Luis Severino. That you're starting Cole, Rodon. I mean, Cortez has a little injury right now. You're hoping it's not a major one if you're a Yankee fan. But then you have Severino, and Severino is down to your fourth starter at this point.
Mhm.
You're not asking to be an ace. I am nervous by the Yankees bullpen, that became quite ordinary after the injury to King. And here's why it is disappointing for me for Baltimore, because they turned it around and had a winning season and were on the fringe of the wild card chase and had all of Baltimore excited to finally be interested in the Orioles again. And then they did nothing. They did nothing significant. They tinkered with in the sides a little bit, but they should have made a big splash move. I thought they should have been in on Correa or Bogarts or Swanson or someone. And we all knew they weren't going to get Trader. We all knew he was going to Philadelphia. But they could have been in on Xander Bogarts. They certainly could have been on Dansby Swanson. They should have made a splash move at one point to signal to the fans, the team, and the baseball's like, hey, we're going to take that and build upon. Instead, they didn't. And I mean, I think we're going to see. It smells like a regression year.
Yeah, I think what the Orioles are doing is kind of like the AL version of the D-backs, where you're just trying to build around the margins and use your younger players to develop and hope they get a little bit better and use that natural progression to make your way to the postseason. Because Sully, they did make a big splash. They went out there and traded for Cole Irvin, right? They signed Kyle Gibson, two big-time marquee starters in the top of your rotation. So
I don't mind those. Those are not bad moves. As I said, sometimes it's important to have a major leaguer starting a game. I just think neither one of those are get people running to the season ticket, website.
Yeah, I think the Orioles are just trying to figure out what's the real ceiling of these young guys that they have with the Adley Rutschmans and Gunnar Hendersons. And then once you know from there, then you could go out there and get the pieces to surround those guys. I think that's what we're going to see from the D-backs this year with the Corbin Carrolls of the world, some of those rotation starters. Like, you're just trying to figure out what's the actual ceiling and potential of these young guys that you've been hyping up, these heralded prospects that you've been hyping up. Because if these guys for both the Orioles and the D-backs, the Corbin Carrolls and the Adley Rutschmans, like, we've been told that these guys are the next ones in line. We've been told these are all-star potential future Hall of Famers. And if these guys can't really live up to the ceiling, then got to kind of reset this whole thing for both Baltimore and Arizona. So I think they're both in a similar place where they're just trying to figure out how real is the talent of these young players before they make any huge splashes in free agency.
All right, let's go to the Central.
Boom.
Let me see. Let me see if I can predict how they're doing the Central. Let me see. I think they have Kansas City at the bottom, then Detroit, then Chicago, who last year looked like were the team to beat. Then I think they're probably saying Minnesota and Cleveland. I think they have Cleveland at the top.
You were close, Sully. You just got to flip Chicago and the Twins, and you would have been spot on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. That's surprising.
And if you want to know something really surprising, Sully, it's not just you have to flip the Twins and the White Sox, but the White Sox and Guardians are actually tied for the same odds at the top of the division at plus 160. So right now, FanDuel thinks it's a coin flip for either the White Sox or Cleveland to win that division. And then, of course, at third is the Twins at plus 250. So not that far behind in the odds, but then really far behind, you got the Tigers at plus 2,000 and then the Orioles at plus 4,000. So they think the Royals. Excuse me. So they think the Royals are basically double as bad as the Detroit Tigers in terms of odds.
Okay. First of all, let me address. Remember a couple of years ago when the Tigers had a good second half of the season, and then they wound up signing Javier Baez, and they're saying like, okay, this is going to be all right, folks.
That was like last year.
Yeah, remember that? And then they went out and they were terrible.
John Gray, I think they spent some money
remember
on.
that? Remember when that happened?
E-Rod.
I'm looking at you, Baltimore. I'm looking right at you. That's what's going to probably happen to the Orioles this year.
Wow.
All right, the Tigers and the Angels are tied now with the longest postseason droughts in Major League Baseball since last year. Both Seattle and Philadelphia made the postseason. The Kansas City.
Not much to say, probably.
Hey, I hope you're happy with the Chiefs.
Bobby Witt. That's
Hope you're
about all I
happy with
got.
the Chiefs, Royals fans. They've got a bunch of young college players coming up through their system. Who knows? Maybe in a couple of years, there's no juggernaut in that division, which is why if you're a team like the Tigers and the Royals this year, I would just take every one of your top prospects, bring them up, see what you got. Trial by fire, put them in the major leagues, get the butterflies out. Let's go. Let's get up here. I am stunned that they have the White Sox basically at a dead heat with Cleveland. Now, I understand, look, Cleveland won the division last year going away, but they won going away because they had a great September. Remember, they were tied with Minnesota the day before Labor Day. With like 3 or 4 weeks to go, Cleveland and Minnesota were in an absolute dead heat. So there was, and for most of the year last year, Minnesota was in first place. Now, Minnesota had a disastrous September, where not only did they lose the division lead, they fell under 500. But they made the risky trade, trading away Rise to the to Miami, but I think that will shore up the pitching staff. They have Carlos Correa back, and I'm sure there's some sort of boost of energy that gives the team knowing that the star is back and the front office is behind them. And the Cleveland Guardians are a team that were very, very good last year. There's no getting around. They won 90 some odd games, and they almost made it to the league championship series. Losing game 5 in New York. They're a very young team. And with that comes unpredictability. This could be the foundation of a team that goes on and wins a bunch of division titles, or it could be the foundation of a team that stumbles and has some of their learning curve. I think Minnesota has as good a shot to win the American League Central as Cleveland does. And I think Chicago's a mess. They lost Jose Abreu. They have the Clevenger controversy. They have a brand new manager that no one knows what heads or tails in. You're not sure what you're going to get out of Tim Anderson this year. I mean, this team, it wouldn't stun me if the White Sox don't finish above 500. Now, this could be in one of those freezing cold takes that you see floating around Twitter from time to time. But right now, I think Minnesota and Cleveland are in a dead heat. And I'm picking Cleveland because I like their pitching more, but I think Cleveland's an 87, 88 win team. And I think Minnesota's like an 85 win team, which means it doesn't take much to have it turn one way or the other. But I think Chicago's an also ran.
I totally agree with you. This is one where I'm like, the Chicago White Sox are not a very good team. I don't like them at all because, like you mentioned, not just Tim Anderson, basically their whole outfield is just a bunch of question marks where it's a whole lot of tantalizing talent, but will that talent ever be able to stay on the field and play an actual 120 games together? Because if you thought Byron Buxton was a guy that always got hurt, go look at the games played log of like the Eloy Jimenez's and the Luis Roberts of the world. Yeah, those guys are always hurt, and we know those guys could be potential all-star plus players, but they're never on the field. And then the Tim Anderson too, like when the core of your lineup you can't guarantee at least a half a season from, it's hard for me to believe in you. And you look at that rotation, they just lost Jose Abreu from that lineup as well, who has been the heart and soul of that team. Yeah. You add in the Mike Clevenger of the world, like you mentioned, but you lose Johnny Cueto, who is, I probably would have rather re-signed Cueto than a Mike Clevenger anyway. If you look at the numbers the last couple of years, Cueto's been better than Mike Clevenger. Brought in AJ Pollock. I don't think that makes much moves the needle for you at all. And they handed out their biggest free agent contract of all time this past summer. Do you remember who that was, Sully?
I actually don't.
Andrew Benintendi was their largest contract they ever gave out in free agency of $15 million a year salary, $75 million total. Absolutely crazy. I think the White Sox are easily going to finish maybe third in that division because it's hard for me to put the Tigers above them, who are still paying Miguel Cabrera $30 million this season. Sully, did you even know that?
I think the White Sox are going to finish the year like 80 and 82. I don't think they're necessarily a bad team, but I don't think they're a winning team. No. You know, I think they're going to finish sub 500, not by a lot, but by enough,
And the
I don't in what is a very weak division. I don't see how they could be even considered above Minnesota or the Guardians. And this is not me hating the White Sox. I have a tremendous soft spot in my heart in the White Sox, but again, they totally mishandled last year. They should never have brought back Tony La Russa. They should have fired Tony La Russa early when it was clear that it wasn't working. When it's clear a manager isn't working, sometimes that's the move. Look what happened in freaking Philadelphia last year. They had a high-profile manager in Joe Girardi. It wasn't working. Sometimes that's the move. And they should have done it last year. And eventually they brought in Miguel Cabrera, Miguel Cairo, I'm sorry, because of La Russa's health. But it should have happened in April.
Yes, and look at all the teams that fired their manager last year. They got better. The Phillies went to the World Series for firing their manager, and the Blue Jays turned around their season after firing their manager as well. The Twins, look, I know you brought up Sully. You kind of bring up the Twins doing well, in the second half of the season, being close. Like I bring up the D-backs being within one game of the Giants in September. I don't like this Minnesota Twins team that much. I like Carlos Correa. I like Byron Buxton, but will Buxton ever put together a 162-game season?
No,
it's hard for me to believe that. Exactly. And that rotation, I don't believe in that rotation either. Look at the Twins offseason. I like bringing Christian Vasquez, somehow able to bring Carlos Correa back. But their other big move, Joey Gallo, like it's not like the Twins really got better this offseason either. They were a 78-win team last year, and I don't really see them getting any better. Cleveland all the way in this division. You look at that lineup, Jose Ramirez, Andre Jimenez, Polanco. They got real dudes. Kwan was a beast last year as a rookie. Then that rotation is quietly one of the best in the American League with that front line duo of McKenzie and Shane Bieber. Give me the Guardians all day, every day. And if you are putting money on the White Sox at plus 160 at the tied for the same odds as Cleveland, just DM me. I will take your money directly and give you the same odds.
And what you should do for that money, you should, just out of the goodness of your heart, you know what you should do?
What should I do?
You should mail them a Built Bar because do you know what? Built Bars, they're the best. They're the absolute best. Now, it's Valentine's Day. What are you going to give your loved one? A box of chocolates? No, I say give them a box of Built Bars or her or whomever. However you address your loved one, do it with Built Bars because nothing says love than saying, yes, this is good for you, like I'm good for you, but it's sweet, like I'm sweet, and fulfilling. I should end this there. Guess what? They are covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. But they're good for you. They come in great flavors. My darling, will you take the churro or will you take the peanut butter brownie? And your lover says, no, my darling, I shall take the coconut almond. And what accent did I suddenly create for this strange line read? And I'm kind of making up. I don't know how Built does it. Kind of like I don't know how I do all these accents. But these bars, they taste like a candy bar and maintaining amazing macros. Oh, these macros are amazing. They have 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. See, it kind of became Spanish into Russian. I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know how they do it. But one thing I do know is you can get your Built Bars not just through the mail anymore. No, you could go to Sam's Club or Walmart. The two most romantic places I can think of. You go to Walmart and you say, hey, my darling lover needs a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. Or head over to Sam's Club. Get a 13-bar box. 13 bars! Brownie batter, churro, whatever you want. You can thank me later. And you will experience the romance and love. You shall build a great love with Built Bar. Sing that jingle with me. Built Bar. We love them.
Boom.
We went somewhere in that. I don't know where that line reading. I may be fired.
Yeah, a little controversial there. So no, that was
I don't know where that. I don't know where those accents were. Just kind of generic European.
Yeah, generic dude in the bar in Russia.
Yes. I have Built Bar. They're good.
Built Bar Baka.
I like the borscht puff. All right.
I don't got accents, unfortunately. I got
I don't
nothing.
get. Neither do I. But I persist. All right. I'm out west. You're out west. Let's go out west. Go
All
west,
right.
young man.
All right. Well, tell me, what do you think the order is going to be, Sully?
Dead last with the two biggest stars of baseball, the Angels. Yeah, I'm saying the Angels.
Are we sure?
Oh wait, no. This is we're doing their. FanDuel has the A's on the bottom.
Of course.
Then the Angels, then the Rangers, then the Mariners, then the Astros. Am I right? Did I get it right?
No one is more on the bottom than the Oakland A's of any division at like plus 20, not 2,500, plus 25,000 are the Oakland A's to win the division. And then, yes, you got the right rest. The right rest?
The right rest.
The right correct. How about that? Angels plus 1,000, actually tied with the Rangers at plus 1,000 as well. Then you got the Mariners at plus 300. And then by far the best odds of anybody to win the division are the Houston Astros at minus 220. The only team that we've discussed today that doesn't have plus odds. That's how big of a favorite they are to win the division.
I mean, and they just re-signed Christian Javier. They have Javier and McCullers and Valdez. And I mean, they got like 5 or 6 pitchers that are all locked in for the next 3 or 4 years. I mean, I think the Astros are a 100-win team. I think the Mariners are a 90-win team, and yet I think they're probably going to finish 11 games out of first. You know, I think they're going to. I think the Mariners are once again going to win 90 games on the nose and finish 11 games out. I think the Astros are going to win 101 games. I think. I have no faith in the Angels right now.
Sadly.
None. I don't. I know they've been making some moves here or there. They have Phil Nevin running the ship, a guy whose lone coaching credit beforehand was waving home Giancarlo Stanton in that wild card game between the Red Sox and Yankees. Break out your shot glasses. Why is it one of Bruce Bochy's lieutenants managing the Angels? Right now, I'm picking the Angels last.
Wow. Are you sure?
Yes, actually.
Wow.
Yes. I've seen the A's enough over the years to know that when everyone says this is the worst team I've ever seen, there's going to be a bunch of people only a few years older than my sons who are going to be playing. Who are these guys? And I don't think the A's are going to be good. But it wouldn't stun me if they were a mid-70s win team. Okay, I don't mean mid-70s when they were in the 1970s when they were winning 3 straight World Series, but like a 75 win team that they'll have a bunch of nobodies that are playing. Hey, nobody thinks we're going to do anything. So, I mean, I've seen that enough. I have no faith in anything with this Angels team. Now, I would like to be proven wrong because I'd like to see Mike Trout in the postseason. This has nothing to do with me hating the Angels. I live in Southern California. I'd like to go to an Angels game where there's a sense of excitement in the air other than, well, at least we get to see Trout. I don't see it. I think the Angels are a 90-some-odd loss team.
Whew.
Maybe a 100-loss team.
Whew.
I think the Angels are in the basement. And not because the A's are great, but I think the A's have the potential with a bunch of nobodies that nobody cares about. They'll be like, oh, look at that. They won 74 games, which, again, isn't good. And I don't have faith in the Rangers either, despite bringing in Bruce Bochy. Yeah, they brought in Jacob deGrom. Is he going to give him 30 starts? Sure, over the length of his contract.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I mean, he's not a spring chicken, and he's never been healthy. I don't think you have the Astros, who are heads and shoulders the best team in the division. You have the Mariners, who are a quality team and may have the home field in a wild card series. And if you tell me the rest of them are going to lose 90 games, I'd say sure. I could see it. I don't think the Rangers are any good. I don't think the A's are any good. And I think the Angels are a disgrace.
Oh man!
So I'm picking the Angels to be in that. Now this could be my throw it in my face moment. But does look me in the eye, anybody, and say, yeah, this Angels team looks like a winner. I would think the A's have a better shot because sometimes, and this happens all the time, there's a team full of players you've never heard of. playing above their heads because, well, they have to lose. There's no pressure on them. And a whole bunch of times people circle them on the schedule, say, well, here's an easy 2 out of 3 wins. And then they walk like, God, we lost 2 of them to these kids we've never even heard of. This is what happened in 2012 when everyone said this team's a disaster, it's a disgrace, and they went on to win the division. I don't think that's happening this year, but I think it wouldn't surprise me, as I said, that they're a 74, 75 win team. But the Angels, I look at them and I say, what a disgrace.
Sully, you should go pound the over then on the Oakland A's if you don't think that's going to be that bad. I think the over-under win total is like 55 games because
I'll take it. Sure. I'll take it right now.
I just looked at their roster. I quite literally don't think I know more than maybe 2 or 3 players off that roster.
That's why they're dangerous.
I think I see what you're saying, but I think they're so bad that they're just going to be bad. And there's no point of return for that team because I don't think even if they start winning games, I think they're going to start trading away all those players that contribute to winning. This team does not want to go anywhere this season. The only place they want to go is out of Oakland because they want to build a new arena somewhere else. So they're going to do everything they can to lose games this year. So listen, I'm usually the Mike Trout hater. My friends have been asking me, why do I hate Mike Trout so much? I don't hate Mike Trout, but on this podcast, I might have to defend the man because saying the Oakland A's are going to win more games than the Angels. Look, I don't like the Angels. I don't think the Angels are going to be in the playoff mix, but they still have too much talent and they still could probably be a
Where? Other than Trout and Ohtani.
Patrick Sandoval had a good year last year. You also had Reed Demeters. He was solid as a rookie as well. You look at the lineup. Of course, you got Trout. You got Ohtani. Don't forget, there's also one man who's missed basically the last 2 years. He's still getting paid like $35 million a year by the Angels, who we haven't mentioned. Anthony Rendon. Yeah.
Good luck with him. Good luck with him.
The Rendon redemption season potentially.
He will get dozens of at-bats.
Taylor Ward had a really good season last year. Maybe Jared Walsh has the bounce back. I don't know. I just think the Angels have way more talent than the Oakland A's. But if you tell me they're the 4th team in the division, I won't disagree with that. I just vehemently disagree with 5th team because I think the Oakland A's probably going to be the worst team in the American League next season. But looking at the rest of the division, my low-key dark horse, I don't know if I want to pick them to make the playoffs or just finish above their win total. But I don't hate the Texas Rangers, Sully. I know you're not a big Rangers guy, but I look at some of their moves. Of course, DeGrom, we know he's a big health risk, but they also got our guy from the Red Sox, Nate Eovaldi.
Because he's been a paragon of health.
I love him. I love Andrew Heaney. He was a solid pickup, and they re-signed Martin Perez. That's a quality core for a rotation, guys. I think Marcus Semien and Corey Seager are going to have huge bounce back years in that lineup. Adolis Garcia is solid. Nathan Lowe is solid. I look up and down that team. I think them and the Angels have enough talent to be up above 80 wins, to be maybe 80 to 85 wins. Do I think either team will make the postseason? Probably not. But I think both of those teams, if healthy, are feisty and could be talked about and making us look and check the standings once we get into the month of September. I wouldn't pick them to make the playoffs. And then the rest of the division, Houston Astros by far. I mean, they got Jose Abreu. I mean, they're by far and away. I love the Mariners, though, this year. Another season of Julio Rodriguez traded for Teoscar Hernandez, which was one of my favorite moves of the offseason.
I like the Mariners. I like the Mariners a lot.
But I wouldn't sleep on the Rangers this season. And you know what? I'm not going to sleep on the Angels, too. When you got 2 goats, I just can't sleep on you.
I'm going to hibernate on them.
Oh man!
You know, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're on the Rangers payroll. I can't figure it out. But no.
They also got Ian Kennedy on a minor league deal.
Oh wow!
Reyes Maranta, 2 former
great. Oh wow! Look at that. Oh wow! Yeah, man, I can hear the Ken Burns music as they're playing a whole episode on the glories of the 2023 Rangers.
Oh my God, they're rebuilding the 2018 Red Sox. I didn't even realize they got Sandy Leone on a minor league contract.
Great.
Oh my God, look at all these winners that they're
from 5 years ago. Do they have a time machine too?
Danny Duffy, minor league deal.
Oh, Danny Duffy. Well, you didn't tell me that.
Oh my God. The talent that they brought in this offseason. Zach
stun me. It would not stun me if you had 2 90-win teams and 3 90-loss teams in that division.
Wow. I mean,
that would not stun me in the slightest.
And quick
in the
correction
slightest.
from what I said earlier, AJ Pollock did not go to the White Sox. He has joined the Seattle Mariners. So that was a little interesting platoon pickup by the Mariners, who I think has had a pretty good offseason. They, of course, lost Mitch Haniger. But right now, I definitely like the Mariners as my number 2 team in that division. But Mariners, I think, are locked to be in the mix for a World Series this season in the American League. They could definitely win the pennant, I think.
I think the three I think the 3 wildcard teams, I'm repeating from last year. I think Toronto's winning the division.
Okay.
I think the Yankees, the Rays, and Seattle are your wildcard teams. I think Toronto, Cleveland, and but by the skin of their teeth, Cleveland and Houston. I mean, Houston is just Houston may clinch the division in July.
I mean, when you lay it out like that, the American League looks kind of weak because if the Rays, I already said I'm not in on the Rays. If I'm taking the Rays out, then it's like I have to pick the Rangers or something.
Yeah, going to pick the Rangers, the Twins. So you got to pick someone.
The Red Sox, it's like, okay, it gets really thin actually after the repeat wild card teams and playoff teams from last year of who you think can like, do you think any of the playoff teams from last year even gets replaced? Like maybe you should just go bet on all the teams that made it last year to make
the one team I think that could fall, that could fall, 2 teams I think could fall. If the Rays have another injury-filled season, and if Cleveland regresses because they're a young team, and sometimes young teams are on a weird learning curve. So I could definitely see the Twins winning the division. I don't know who that other one, if the Rays though fall, who would it be? I don't think it's going to be Baltimore. I don't think it's going to be Boston. I don't think it's going to be Chicago. Certainly not going to be Detroit. I think Detroit, Kansas City, Oakland, and the Angels all have a shot at 100 losses this year. And I'll believe Texas when I see it. I don't believe them. So I don't know who it is. I think the one race that is really in question is the
East.
Is the East.
Yeah, that's fair because the Blue Jays are just
the Central.
I guess
with Cleveland and Minnesota. But
the Central's a race for different reasons because we don't think the top of that division is very top load, but definitely the AL East is going to be, I don't know. The AL West, I think, is going to be a really fun division this year just because I don't like the Red Sox or Baltimore Orioles. And I think Tampa Bay's going to get wins and be a great regular season team more than likely. But I think there's a world where maybe the Angels or Rangers could enter that scenario. I'm not saying it's likely, but I don't want to just completely discount a team with generational talent like the Angels, even though they suck every year.
Okay, let's end it by bringing it back to the Oscars. Okay. What is more realistic than an Angels or Rangers postseason run this year? Everything, all at once, or Avatar? Those are both more realistic than those. So let's stop that. We're running late on this one, and we said we're going to try to keep it short. But, hey, we're doing this for you all. Miller Thomas, tell people where they can follow you.
Yeah, please follow my YouTube channel, Locked on Diamondbacks. We're slowly climbing to 400 subscribers, so please hit subscribe on there. Follow us on all your streaming platforms, and please follow me on Twitter at CreatorThomas24 for my personal account, or look up Locked on Diamondbacks, both Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle, please.
And thanks for making Locked On MLB your first listen every day. Your second listen, MLB Locked On Diamondbacks. Your third listen, MLB Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Lindsey Crosby. He's a prospect encyclopedia. He's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Talking Oscars, fantasy, and angels falling from the sky. This is a Locked On MLB, Locked On Diamondbacks crossover for Valentine's Day. We're going to be doing the National League tomorrow. Maybe I won't be rapping about the Oscars so much at the top. I'm Sully. He's Miller Thomas. Let's fist pump till tomorrow.
Boom.